Hey all, so we are all set live. We'll be starting in about a minute. So you all are welcome to write your name in attendees list. And if you have any item to discuss, please put them in the agenda items. Cool. So I think we are good to start the call. So welcome everyone to Meshery development meeting. Today is February 2022, February 22nd. And we'll be following our weekly Lay 5 tradition. So if you haven't been on this call before and haven't got a chance to introduce yourself, feel free to sound off and give a quick introduction. I see a couple of newcomers on the call. So anyone would like to go first?
Hello everyone, my name is Vikas, computer science and undergrad from India. I'm contributing to open source project to get good exposure on software development, and I'm currently looking for smaller issues on Meshery. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Welcome to the call, Vikas. We'll be discussing about good first issues you can definitely pick up. So next up we have Rinku or Pratham. Anyone would like to introduce?
Hey Gaurav, hey everyone. I joined the Monday's meeting. It is my first development meeting today, and I am here for same reason as Vikas, for good exposure and to contribute with everyone else. Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome to the call, Pratham. So did I miss any more newcomers? Yep,
Hello.
Rinku.
Yeah, let me introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Rinko, and I'm a computer science undergrad doing my BC. And I'm pretty new to open source, and I just joined the Meshery community like a week back. And 2 days back, I made my first contribution and it was successfully, my pull request was successfully merged. So I'm pretty happy about it. So yeah, looking forward to making some more awesome contributions.
Cool, that's wonderful. So do we have more newcomers? I think we have, yeah. Sudhanshu or Mary Blessing. So Hardik would like to introduce yourself. You have raised the hand.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Hardik. I'm currently pursuing BTech CSE third year, and I haven't really contributed to open source that much, but I'm really excited about the space. And I got a message from Lee, I think on LinkedIn, and that's how I, joined the whole process. And I'm happy to contribute to this community. But I would need some help. You may fairly with others. I'm sorry, I'm speaking Hindi. I'm sure a lot of folks won't know that. So I would need some help in the starting, and when I'm good with it, and I'll be contributing openly. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Welcome to the community, Hardik. Do invite your friends to the call. Yeah. And to the community. Yeah, with that, I think we are all set to move towards the agenda items. So first up, we have an item by Mohite. I think it was by Lee, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Is Mohit on? I don't know that he is, but he just picked up this issue, so I'll just introduce it, which is, well, there are a number of people who come to participate in the projects, in Meshery specifically, but there's a number of other projects, and who use Windows as their operating system. We have we could do as a project, as a Meshery project, we could do a better job of helping those contributors be productive quickly with instructions on environment-specific instructions. So a lot of the way in which we like to build Meshery starts with a make command. And make as a utility isn't installed or readily available on Windows, certainly by default. And so there are any number of ways to develop and contribute to Meshery and to the other projects using Windows. But our documentation isn't as great there. There have been a couple of, over the years, there have been a number of contributors who've written up documentation in consideration of what it's like to contribute using a Windows operating system here. And they've taken it so far as to write a couple of docs that are inside of the community shared drive. And so if any of you are in the call now, so for those of you who are here, if you click either of these two links and you don't get a Google Doc pulled up, or it says that you don't have access, I think this one's completely open because it was written by a meshmate some long time ago. And this first one, I think, is in the community drive. If you don't have access, then that just means that you should go fill in one of these, a community member form. I put the hyperlink inside of the Zoom chat. If you fill in the form, it will process your access fairly promptly. Anyway, point of this is I was going to make a call for help, some help wanted on taking these two docs about how to contribute using Windows and get the information that they contain published. And then Mohit, before the call started, Mohit goes to IIT BHU. There's a number of BHUers here. He volunteered and he did a good job on his last docs assignment, which was about, pipelining, service mesh standards. So he wrote he did a good job. Anyway, point is Mohit signed up. And so that's what the particular topic was about. If you use Windows, no problem. One of the recommendations is to potentially use WSL2, so you can get more of a Linux-centric environment happening, and you'll find some of the tools that the project used to be a little more friendly in that way. But there's a number of different ways to use Windows and participate. Cool. So yeah, that was all I was going to highlight.
Cool. So we can move ahead with the next item, that is by Pranav on fix the issues related to user account extension. So Pranav, you are all set to go.
I'm sharing my screen. So first I'll tell a little context about what I'm trying to talk about. That is Meshery, extensibility of Meshery. Meshery as an extensible cloud data manager can be extended to enhance its functionality through different extension points. As of today, Meshery supports 4 extension points. These extension points could be in the form of components, full page, backend. So these are different types of extension points. And like when you use Meshery, you'll realize that there are different plugins which you can plug into based on your requirements. So I realized that recently there was a little problem in user account extension specifically, wherein it wasn't being loaded on just first click. That is I will show you what the issue is right now. So I'm on the latest master, and I'll from Meshery, I'm trying to access my personal profile. So when I click on it, it just loads and it just stops there. And then the problem over here is that the particular type of extension after being updated was not being rendered. So this first problem I have fixed right now. So now this is my local development environment of Meshery UI. And now if I click on it, it loads the extension quite promptly. And first is try to look for the type of extension point that it should load, and then it loads that. And now it brings to the second problem, which I'm fixing. That is it keeps on loading and it takes several seconds to load on first click. And that's the problem which I'm fixing right now. I think that this got introduced due to a recent regression, like when we added the um, like when we were developing the playground and making sure that those who don't have access should get a model so that they can sign up for the playground. And like I think that thing added this regression thing. So I'm just fixing this second bug. The first one is already fixed in my display. So I'll get this fixed. Any questions related to this?
By the way, is it the download that is taking time, or yeah, what exactly is the issue here? By the way?
The second issue, which is it's like it loads the same extension like 5-6 times, and then it like understands like now it's the correct extension, so it doesn't stops loading. So there's a problem in the loading thing.
Which is kind of getting all the extension at once, and then okay.
Yeah. So that's the update from my side. Thank you.
Cool. So assuming there are no more questions for Pranav, we can move ahead with Ashish's item on fixed dry run of Kubernetes components.
Yeah. Okay. Just give me a second. Yeah, so this is a recent change that I made. When you try to deploy any component in Meshery or any design in Meshery, what happens is when you click on deploy in Mesh Map, actually, when you click on deploy, this modal renders. And right now there are UI changes required. That's why the errors are not coming up, but I'll show the JSON response. And here you get the dry run errors. So before actually deploying the component, in this case, it's a service, it actually sends a dry run request to Kubernetes server to check and checks the response. So previously, a lot of edge cases, it wasn't even an edge case. One of the cases wasn't being met. So if your dry run succeeded, then the the deployment would fail because backend wasn't handling that case. So there are two cases. One is the dry run is successful, and the other one is when dry run fails. Now this is a case of a valid service. So when the dry run is successful, this is the response that you'll get has changed now. And previously, the information that so you can have multiple contexts, which is to say multiple clusters connected, and the dry run would take place across all those clusters. And previously, it was just an array of all the responses, so you wouldn't able to UI wasn't able to map each dry run response to one cluster. That so cluster A actually said that it's okay to deploy it, that it was a success, and the cluster B said it was a failure. To do that, we need context ID of that particular context. So this is how the response looks like now. So inside of response, you have so this is one component which is service Ashish. So this you get the name of the component, and inside of the name of the component there are context IDs, and for each context ID there is currently only one context that I'm connected to. There are three fields now: success, error, and component. When success is set to true, it means the dry run was success, and when success is set to false, it means it failed. Based upon this, you can check either the component field or the error field, because in this case there was no error, so the error is null, and it actually returns a component. If you can see here, there are annotations and there are labels. So and inside of settings, you can also see that there is a cluster IP. So Kubernetes said that if you will try to deploy it, I'll give this particular cluster IP to this particular service. So so what happens is, before actually deploying, KubeAPI server calculates basically a YAML, basically a Kubernetes YAML file, and then we translate that onto our design format, that this is how it's going to look like after being deployed. So when the dry run is successful, it returns the component, and this component denotes what would be there if this was successful. And now let me try to, so this was about when it's success. Now I'll intentionally fail this thing. So let's say I'll go into annotation and I'll use a field that is not like a question mark, and now I'll try to deploy it again. Okay, so in this case, I get another response, and success is set to false. I'll predefine the response just so that. Yeah. So in this case, because the dry run failed, it says that for this component, the the component returned was null because the dry run failed, and the success is set to false. I can change this field to something else, but right now it just success is true or success is false. And inside of error, you get the cause. This was the whole cause, and you get the status, which is failure, of course. And inside of causes, you get the field path, which now previously it used to correspond to the Kubernetes internal manifest path, but now it just corresponds to a design file. So inside of design, there is a component or service with the name service Ashish. So this is dot separated path to that particular field, which is invalid. In this case, it is service Ashish dot annotations, which is correct. That inside of my this service Ashish, there is an annotations map which has this problem. So so yeah, these two cases are the response of these two cases are screenshotted and put over here in the PR that I've created. And yeah, so any questions regarding this?
Now, what would I get in case of duplicate names? Like I have two services with the same name. So
Yeah, currently we don't allow that in the design file. So if you have like we didn't get around this thing last time as well. But if you have the same name, the label is the same. But as you know, also the name is prefixed, the suffixed with a unique identifier. So one thing is UI might. That was a UX. Kind of a discussion that we have to conclude on, which is to say, if someone tries to create another component, let's say with the same name, in some cases that's okay actually. So I think so for example, you can create a service with the same name, and then you can create a pod with the same name as well, right? So in that case, we shouldn't say that it's not allowed. So I guess in that case, server there will have to be, but yeah, that's a separate discussion. That okay, I'll note it down as one of the points over here. For now, if you have duplicate components, the server doesn't allow duplicates, and just suffix a random alphanumeric 5-letter alphanumeric.
okay.
So Ashish, in these fields, like you entered a question mark to actually make it fail. Is there a validation? Is there a thing to say that this is not allowed in the?
Yeah. So this response is coming from Kubernetes servers validating webhooks. So when you try to deploy something, and if the annotation is of a certain, so you can go and look up that in the Kubernetes documentation itself, and there they have specified that there are two types of validation actually. One is a schema validation that also takes place over here. So for example, inside of cluster IP, let's say inside of something, let me try to violate. So let's say inside of a port, I give it, I don't specify the port. So you get the red badge. So there are two errors that we're getting to. One is validation error and the other is dry run error. These validation errors are just schema errors. So there is an open API schema for each of these components, which means to say what fields can you fill and what fields are required. All of these are actually covered in a schema. And Kubernetes, you will go to the Kubernetes repo and you can find the actual schema where it is specified that there will be a port field and it's required. So it's explicit for these cases. So for these static kind of you can say these are statically analyzing something. So for these, you have predefined schemas that you can use, and you don't even have to click on deploy to get these errors. But the second type of errors are not explicitly defined anywhere else, but rather they exist in Kubernetes itself. So for example, the question mark is a built-in error, but someone can actually add even more rules. Someone can add a mutating webhook controller or a validating webhook controller, which can keep adding rules on top of the existing rules. So maybe someone disallows that you cannot deploy something in this particular namespace. So now you're not getting that error, but you might even get that validation, that dry run error. And there it would say something like this namespace is not allowed. So these are not actually defined somewhere, but it depends. It completely depends upon Kube API server and the Kubernetes configuration.
Okay.
Any other questions, or should
Cool. I think we don't have more questions from folks. With that, let's move ahead with next agenda item, which is by Colby on draft submission of catalog publishing. So Colby, are you ready with your update?
Yeah.
Cool.
So basically what I did here was she had wanted something for describing how to publish a catalog design. So I've done a few things and I'm going to need feedback. And, like I said, this is totally a draft. But one thing I did was I bumped Playground to the front. So it's docs and Playground, and then the catalog, and I added the drop down here. So there's the view mesh map patterns, which brings you to the original pattern catalog. And then it still has the links up here where you can click add yours to the catalog. And that brings you to another landing page where it describes how to go about, there's the design, which is currently, it directs to play.meshery.io. So if you click it, then it pulls up the play.meshery.io. I would like to have another landing page where it either gives you the choice of going through Meshery or Playground and describing that process. It also gives you the option to submit designs, which brings you to the directions to actually submit the designs. And this is my understanding of how to go about submit the designs through Meshery and MeshMap. And I already see a typo here. But I did make a video and I have to update the video itself because it doesn't have the right screenshot, but
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, great one, Colby. So yeah, definitely folks must be having some feedback right now.
So I guess there's more that can be done. Like I said, I think the main thing is the navigation bar and the landing page here. And then the collaborate, I'd like to further like show people, because whenever I was in MeshMap the other night, Lee was in there and he was interacting with me in MeshMap, and I think that's really cool. So if we could demonstrate that through video, right now this is just directing to the discuss page, but I think another landing page in that regard might be helpful. So anyways, there's quite a bit there, and so I'm interested in any feedback, and I still have a lot to do in terms of fleshing things out, but that's a draft. Any feedback?
Yeah, actually, great work, Kobe, over here. The first piece of feedback would be on the design where it says build visual service meshes in MeshMap. I think we can drop the service meshes because it is more general than that. So I can't come up like right now with a better alternative, but it would be, I think Lee can suggest something better, but we shouldn't be tying ourselves onto cloud design, any cloud native
okay
pattern, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, who else has feedback? So if it isn't obvious, I mean, for those that go out to meshery.io, you'll notice that the catalog, which stands to be a very significant piece of value to users, it isn't necessary. I don't know that it's necessarily, or it's not as prominent currently as Colby is making it here. So he's really highlighting a significant chunk of value that you all have created as part of Meshery. But currently, it's not necessarily clear. I think Manish was submitted a design for publication from Meshery and to publish it. Awesome. I'm able to call out Manish by name for a couple of reasons. One, because he's been around here for a little while, but also two, because there aren't a lot of people doing that yet. And why aren't they doing it? Well, in part because Colby's not done with this, or because this wasn't done previously. Like, hey, how do you get content into the catalog? And alongside that, I would, as a user, I would be asking the question of like, well, geez, am I allowed to do that? I'm looking through the catalog now, and I see some, you know, some designs or some patterns that are in the catalog that are, some of them look like drafts, some of them look, you know, well curated, but none of them have an individual's name. And so, you know, it's not really evident to me that it would be kosher or that I'm allowed to, as an individual, publish into this catalog. So, you know, and then, you know, like, and so what Colby's doing here, I think is quite fantastic in that regard. Like, the notion that there would be potentially a couple of other individual pages that more fully describe what it means to create a design, and maybe considerations as to like what makes for a good reusable design, or like what makes for a good, if you worked on a design for a while, how do you know that it's prime time and it's ready to potentially republish to the world and share with others in that way? There might be some best practices that particular page could highlight. And then on the, like Colby was saying, on the collaboration page, yeah, there's quite a bit of capabilities that Meshery has, and certainly with the mesh map as a plugin, that those capabilities aren't documented, and some of them are super compelling. People are really surprised when they see them, and so astoundingly, we haven't published them, and this is wonderful. What other people? Oh, I know one. So Riddick Saxena, I'm not sure if he's on, but he was going to work on, Colby, if you don't mind, if you were to find an individual piece of content from the catalog, that's just like in the catalog itself here on Meshery.io.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be, like I was saying, it wouldn't have an individual's name. Like one of the designs that Manish had submitted, I think, was related to Istio book info. And we certainly want to, well, give him credit or let people know to whom to go chat with about this particular design if they have questions, or they want to, it might be something that over time, if Manish spends a lot of time creating designs and sharing them, well, he might get real popular all of a sudden if people start reusing them. And there's a question, well, how many people have used each of these? Like there's a bunch of questions that I think that we need to answer that can be built out further from here. And so I call it Riddick Saxena because, man, that last name is just, there's a couple that like get in my way, but I'm getting better. Anyway, Riddick was going to do a couple of designs to create public-facing user profiles, so that someone like Manish, if he gets a few designs curated and published into the catalog, that you could then look up Manish and see, you know, here's his collection of designs. If you like that one, there's more where that came from, and you can go see Manish. And then maybe, hey, how many times have those been used? That'd be pretty cool. Manish would like that, I think, as feedback. He'd like, you know, others would like to know who to ask questions of. Having a profile. We have profiles as a community in a couple of places. We have them on Layer 5 IO. There's some profiles there that generally represent individuals who've just been consistently within the community, who have the same sort of pay it forward mentality that represents sort of the same culture of what the community is founded upon. And then we also have profiles that are hidden on Meshery.io. There's kind of an Easter egg, maybe. If you were to go to Meshery.io/community, you'll see some of the very first profiles that we ever created. We had put them there, and over time, we had profiles in two different places, and we were having a hard time keeping track. And Meshery was just one of the projects that we had, so we moved those profiles over to Layer 5 IO. Colby, if you don't mind, if you go to instead of /catalog, if you go to /community, folks might see what the original ones look like, and they're extremely plain. So I guess to wrap this up, if you're into UX, whether it's visual design or just you want to do a wireframe layout of what a Meshery cloud profile would be, that would be great, because what we want to do is link from individual pieces of content to the person that published them, and then allow people to look at the rest of the stats of that individual with respect to either contribution, what their role in the community, their role in the project, things that they've published inside the catalog, discussions that they've created on the forum. There's a lot of data when they joined. There's a lot of stats like that can be published. So to wrap it up and to repeat myself one more time, if you're into UX, we use Figma generally to create designs. If you'd like to try to create the profile page, great. That's an open need right now. If you are into React, then we are in need of generating those profile pages. And so there's an open need there. Just as an extension of kind of where Colby was headed, sort of some next steps there. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's really
so
nice.
I would encourage anyone to go watch the full video and tell me what you think about it, in terms of like how it turned out. I mean, like I said, this whole thing could use some more work, and I just wanted to get something in today. But yeah, the whole Jekyll thing, I would prefer React for that and for that purpose.
Yeah, totally.
But that's all I got today.
By the way, it's one of the nicer videos I've seen. Look,
Cool.
First of all, it was just intriguing to see the design, like cool to see. That's one of the more sophisticated designs that I've seen. That's great.
Well, as I get to working, the more I want to add, in terms of like the interactivity and the flow. I'm kind of doing this as if I were working on my brother's webpage or whatever.
Yep, makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah,
Any
cool.
other feedback?
Yeah, Gaurav, did you?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has more feedback except awesome and great work, Colby. So let's move to next item, which is by Krishna Mahato on prevent publishing functionality for local provider users. So do we have Krishna on the call?
Yes.
Yep, we do.
Hey guys, so this is Krishna Mato. I'm really new to this community, and this is the first time that I'm joining this dev call. So I got an issue on GitHub that I wanted to work on. So I hope my screen is shared.
Nope, not yet.
Just a second.
Yeah, if you need time, we could circle back to you. Yeah, I think we lost Krishna. So yeah, no issues. We'll circle back to him. Let's move ahead with next item. That's by Antoinette, and Antoinette is not here today. She has sent it regrets. So, but yeah, I will still go over her work. So she is migrating to GraphQL WebSockets, and yeah, Abhi or Ashish or Uzair, anyone would like to go over this thing?
Yeah, so By the way, subscription transport WS, if I remember correctly, was the reason of failure of Meshery UI integration test because they are no longer maintained and definitely not under active maintenance. So with the updates of PS package, so there has been some bug in the code that has been, you know, introduced. So and that was the reason our most of the integration test was failing due to WebSocket errors. So I mean, I had added a patch to correct that thing, but since it is not no longer maintained, and ultimately we wanted to move to, the some other package that is actually providing the same benefit that subscription transport WS provides. So I mean, basically, I'm in favor of migrating. Uh, yeah, I'm in favor of this migration, and I think it's good to have it.
Yeah. Okay. So any comments from folks?
I think this is great. Like I've noticed this kind of problem before, but it was intermittent. And I don't know. I guess we back then we went to some rabbit hole and never like thought of patching or migrating this dependency over. Although about the dashboard comment in the description, I don't know, is there anything left, or is that just what should we do with that comment about Meshery system start? Looks like it's part of the like implementation detail, like how I don't know how does that relate to the tests?
Yeah.
So it's just something that helps check for when the status of the broker is up. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Right. Actually, at the end of the output of Meshery CTL system start, I think Meshery CTL attempts to identify like the location of Meshery UI, or basically the location of Meshery server. A lot of times that's localhost 9081, but depending upon the user's environment, that might be a different host name and a different port. And having the broker be like checking for the connectivity to the broker so the broker and Meshery server are the two that speak to one another. And so I guess if in the code that has been changed here, I suppose that some of that's within, or all of that maybe is within Meshery server. I'm trying to figure out how it relates to it. So how does this relate to the end of to system start?
I guess it's more of like how accessing the dashboard, like when you initially start Meshery, it's not ready sometimes, but it depends on how fast it spins up everything. So I guess it's just a comment about making it more usable, or how it queries. But for now, I think it said there was some timer, so it means that it'll wait for a specific amount of seconds. Not here, or is there a timer? Oh yeah, that set interval. Check every 5 seconds. Check service status.
Yeah, which is generally a positive thing. And Meshery does check on each of its components, each of the adapters. It will reach out to the adapters proactively and just confirm that they're still around, and that will check in on its capabilities. The adapters themselves, when they spin up, they will self-register with Meshery server. And in the same way, like even more critical than the adapters is the connectivity, the health of the connection between Meshery server and Meshery broker, really critical to the Meshery's understanding of what's happening inside of a cluster. I mean, without that connection, Meshery doesn't know what's going on inside of a cluster. And so this robustness is helpful. It's nice when we do that in a uniform way. I think it's every 10 seconds that we check for the adapters, but that's fine. If there's a delta, this is a more important connection. And yeah, and to your point though, Mario, it's something good for us to reflect on, like how this helps potentially improve that initial interaction that the user has when they do a system start. And Meshery CTL is telling them, okay, well, here's where Meshery is, so go here. There's a related command, Meshery CTL system dashboard, which, like to Mario's point exactly, that there's a little bit of a race condition that happens where Meshery CTL will sort of finish its task, check in on where it thinks, on where Meshery server might be, and it might not be in its final location yet. So Meshery CTL might inform the user of an improper location. And so, yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'm just missing it in this code here. I have to digest it a little bit more, but any amount of improvement in that regard is really helpful. Thank you. So Uzair had done some work in this area recently. I don't think he's not on today. He's away from keyboard. But Abhi and Ashish, you've both worked in this area. Abhi, I think you're positive on the change in library used, so that's a positive. And then I think Mario is positive on the fact that there's now a 5-second proactive polling to make sure that connection is healthy, which is super important inside the UI to let someone know that the broker is disconnected, so that of the information that they're seeing inside Meshery UI, it could be stale, or it is stale if that connection is broken. So that's really helpful. We should verify that if a timer check fails, that the proper state is being updated in the UI, so that we let people know. It should almost be a big yellow banner, like, wait, Meshery broker is disconnected. You may not be seeing accurate things.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I think we can point Antoinette to this conversation. She can watch the live stream and take the feedback. Cool.
Just for everyone, when there's a Cypress test failing, it's a bit daunting to go and your PR checks, and there's just a lot of information. Just try to make the most sense of it. And these kinds of errors, like Cypress failed because there's some console error. It depends on the application itself, and we can make Cypress ignore those console errors, and maybe nothing goes wrong. But it's better to just ask for help and just get. Usually, the Cypress output will say that, oh, this is an application side error caused by Cypress, and it'll kind of like give you a hint. It just even if it's intermittent, it's good to try to fix it, right? So this is the right call.
Yeah, cool.
In case anyone else sees something, like just let's try to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Usually it's something that's like some code smell, right? Something's wrong, but not always it's evident. It affects the user experience, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, thanks, Mario, for making a call for that Cypress test. Yeah, so we can, I think we have Krishna back. So circling back to you, Krishna. So are you ready with your update?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what was the issue earlier, but I'll try to share my screen again. Okay, is my screen visible now?
Yep, it is.
Okay, so this was the issue that I was working on. It basically required me to restrict the published component in the Meshery designs catalog here. So since I am logged in from my GitHub account right now, so it basically allows me to publish this design, and I can publish this. But if I log out and sign in from a non-provider, so this should basically restrict me, as it is not the capability of the local provider as stated in the issue. So I have restricted that component. The files that I've changed here was this Meshery patterns component. In this page, I used a new state that basically tracks whether it's a local user or not. For this, I'm just using the global state that I'm getting from the props, and then comparing it whether it's the user ID is Meshery or not, and then setting the local user as true. And then I'm basically passing this state to various subcomponents and restricting the render behavior of the like the published component wherever it is used, and the published functionality, like whether to use that or not. So maybe reviewers can provide me review for this, and also state like whether this is the correct way to do it or not.
Nice. Yeah, nice work, Krishna. Nice work. There might be there might be one other condition to this logic, and that would be a little more generic. Like it is true that the local provider doesn't support this. Okay. But which is accurate and good. Another way of considering this, though, is that there is to ask the provider if it supports it. So perpetually, unless something changes, the local provider just never would support this. But there might be one or more other remote providers that may or may not support it. And so a slightly more generic way of considering this is asking the remote provider if it does, or asking the provider if it does support it.
Okay, so like, is there needs to be a like REST API present in the backend to check that, or whether like, the Redux store should have a parameter to store that?
That's a good question. There is a REST API for it. However, that might already be locally available. So, Abhi, do you know if it would already be locally available, the capabilities of the provider?
Okay. Okay, maybe I missed that. I need to.
By
like,
the way,
yeah,
the provider capability you can get by /API/ provider / capability by sending a request to that endpoint. So you will get all that.
Yeah, good. That's what we just said. But actually, the question is that would he need to make that call, or is that already available in a different?
No. Yeah, it is already available in one of the state variable. So there is a capability registry object we'll see in the store. So since capability registry is used in most of the places inside Meshery UI, so it has been the state has been maintained in one of the Redux store. So you'll get it. So the name of the store variable is capability registry object. And whenever the site loads up, like the Meshery UI loads up, so the first thing it will do is just fetch the capability and store that capability response into that global variable, Redux variable. So yeah, you don't have to make another request. That's all I want to say.
Okay. So is it like the part of the user object itself in the global store, or it's a different variable in itself?
Local store. No, it's not in local store, but it's in Redux store. So there is a store.js file inside Meshery UI. So you'll find a variable there. So it's been used quite extensively. So if you, search globally the variable name capability registry obj, like capability registry object or something similar. So you will get how it is implemented, and you'll get to know about it.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe I'll have a look onto that and make changes accordingly, and so that this changes will be more generic. Yeah, so I think that will be all from my side.
Cool. Thanks. It was a great update, Krishna. So next up we have a topic by Vishal, but I think Vishal is having some internet issues. So he has already described his item in chat. You all can definitely go through it. So let's move to next item, which is by Yash Sharma on fixing some Meshy UI dark mode bugs. Yash, you are all set to share your screen.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so my updates were small actually. Let me just. So actually, as we all know that Meshery recently got the dark mode. So there are some components which actually do not fully compatible with the dark mode. So in this PR, I actually it got merged. So in this PR, I find out where are some of the components that are not compatible with the dark modes, and I fixed them. So I think I fixed some of the dark mode issues. There are still some dark mode issues in Meshery. So yeah, in this, it's all a small update from me today. So I fixed some of the dark mode issues. I still Meshery have some of the dark mode issues as we go in the settings in the adapter. This is not compatible with the dark mode, and I think Deepak was working on that. So yeah, today this is my small this was my small update from me.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, it's important. So Yash is making a call for dark mode bugs. So if anyone gets into any bug, you can feel free to raise an issue or open a PR directly. Let's move it to next item. Let me share my screen again. So next up we have an update by Gopi on need of improving error message. So do we have Gopi on the call? Yep, we do. Gopi, would like to share your screen? I think Gopi is having some kind of issues with his mic. So yeah, we can skip Gopi's topic. Gopi, feel free to write about your issues or topic in
Hello?
chat. Yeah, hey
Yeah,
Gopi, we
sorry,
can hear you.
there was some problem with my mic before. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Yeah, okay, I'm sharing my screen. So the thing was, like I have to make a PR so that the error message becomes user friendly. I've took the reference from the already merged PR from Rakshit here. So from his PR, I've got to know that like he has changed the error message such that just a second. Yeah, in my PR, I have changed according to the issue that there was the previous error was saying regarding fail to unmaster response body. Then I've changed it to couldn't process JSON response from the server. Uh, uh, Similarly with the other thing, but in this case, like he just changed the message here, like in browser to in your browser to default setting and all. So is there anything else left which I wanted to change? And regarding this, like previously it was saying that command is an invalid command. Use Meshery of help to display user guide. Like I'm not sure whether I have to change this or not. Saying like you are misspelling the command as this. Use /help to display usage guide.
No, I don't think that's not. Yeah, we don't want to. It's accusatory and puts the user on defense. You just want to say, hey, whatever you typed is invalid, and so
okay.
Yeah,
I will discuss this change. And what about the other changes? Like, is there anything else left which I wanted to do other than changing this error message?
Yeah, Gopi, I don't know, man. If you're, I don't know if there's other folks on the call that could answer. If you got someone specific who's reviewing it, I think Aditya is. I don't know that he's on today. But yeah, one thing that outside of like the failed to unmarshal response body versus couldn't process JSON response from server is nominally better. It's still a bunch of nerd gobbledygook that doesn't really necessarily make sense to the user. What does that mean to them, and what do we want them to do about that? Are we showing that to the user?
Yes, we are going to show this to the user.
Yeah. What should they do when they see that?
Like I didn't completely go through this, but in the issue it was mentioned that I have to change the error message from this to this, and hence I've changed every error message.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But still,
also,
that question still stands. Is like, no, I wouldn't. I would probably say, hey, we're just churning. Like it's nominally better. It doesn't really tell people what happened and how to fix it. As a matter of fact, the short description, the probable cause and suggested remediation on 290, 291, 292 are, it's 291 and 292 that are actually the really important items. So I think, this is helpful. Thanks for raising this PR. There's a couple of the responses are, well, or some of them are a good improvement. But yeah, I think like until we get 291 and 292 filled in, like those, that's where that's the crux of the issue. Is like, well, the probable cause, like probably you submitted a manifest that is invalid JSON. Suggest remediation, use the JSON validator to such and such, and something like that. I mean, we don't want to make too many assumptions, but we can just say potentially this happened, potentially that happened.
Okay, I'll look into it again.
Does that make sense?
And also, yeah.
Do you know where
and
those?
Also
do you know where those errors show up?
Not exactly, but I'll look into it and we'll change it up.
So but let's get you over the hump. So if you go to docs.meshery.io, there's an error reference, error code reference. And so what's written there gets automatically published into Meshery docs. So on the lower left-hand side of the yeah, there you go. Well, okay. There's and this actually could need some help. So there's a few of you who are on the call that might be quite capable of helping here. One of the issues that we have is there's the first two columns on this page. If you click a row, Gopi. Okay. Yep. Ooh. So if someone sees the error process ohm code, they're just going to see they'll see error performing ohm operations, which I have no idea. As a user, I wouldn't know what that means. Even as a contributor, I don't know what that means. And it's because we're missing the probable cause, the rest of the info. So if you fill in those two fields in your PR, that'll be one less error code that doesn't mean anything to the user. Something that someone else on this call could do, or Gopi, if you wanted to, is those two columns, the one, that moniker in the first leftmost column, if you go to the top of the table, error name and error code, those probably need to be smushed together into one column, because that's the way that it's presented to the user on the CLI, is as one thing. Users will come here and they'll search for, oh, I got error code 1006. Well, there's only 8 1006s on this page. There's multiple. It's when you combine the two together that it's unique. And so, yeah. So if there's a volunteer for that on the call, just signal. Gopi, back to your review.
And also I have another peer to discuss about. That is regarding this adding remaining integrations. which I've almost done. Like I've been going to this deploy preview and into the slash integrations. Like I'm getting this successful. Like I'm getting this.
Hey Gopi, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a time check, so we can put this item to a parking
Oh,
lot, and yeah, we can discuss it
okay.
later. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
sure.
So we are 3 minutes over. So I think we can cover rest of the remaining items in the next call. If there is any urgent item that we need to discuss right now, you can signal right now. I'll just pause for 10 seconds. Okay, cool. So yeah, thank you all for joining today's Meshy development meeting. We'll all will be meeting you next week, same time, same place. Thank you for joining. Bye everyone.